Selam Tesfaye is a smart and tough Ethiopian-American lawyer. She goes to a fancy party in Chicago to relax. The party is full of rich people in boring black clothes, but Selam wears a bright gold dress to stand out. While trying to get to the balcony, she gets annoyed by a man blocking the way. She doesn't realize he is Adrian Volkov, a powerful and dangerous man. Selam pushes him aside and tells him to move. The next morning, she goes to work at her law firm. She is shocked to see Adrian sitting in her office. He is the firm's newest and most important client. Now, Selam has to work for the man she pushed, all while a jealous coworker tries to get her fired. The gold dress was a big mistake. Selam Tesfaye knew it the moment she stepped out of the cab and saw the crowd. It was a high-end masquerade party in the heart of Chicago, and the dress code was clearly understated elegance. Everywhere she looked, people were draped in boring black silk and dark suits. While she stood there in a shimmering, liquid gold gown, she realized she was the only splash of color in the entire ballroom. She had convinced herself that gold was basically a neutral color, but standing under the massive crystal chandeliers, it was not the same thing. "Okay," she whispered to herself, smoothing down the expensive fabric. "We don't spiral. We walk in like we own the building." She squared her shoulders and walked in with her head held high. The party was everything a Chicago elite event was supposed to be. It was excessive, gorgeous, and completely unbothered by the concept of a budget. Waiters weaved through the crowd holding trays of drinks that glowed faintly blue. Selam grabbed one immediately because she was a woman of priorities. She was a brilliant Ethiopian-American lawyer who had spent years making a name for herself, and tonight, she just wanted to forget about law books and courtrooms. By her second drink, the music was vibrating in her chest. She found a corner near the balcony where the breeze was cool. She was recording a quick video for her Instagram story when she decided she needed some fresh air. She headed toward the narrow glass doors, but a tall man was blocking the way. He was massive, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, and he stood with a stillness that was almost scary. He was looking out at the city, ignored by the crowd, but clearly part of it. Selam was tired and her feet ached from her heels. She didn't want to wait for him to notice her. She didn't ask him to move. Instead, she planted her hand firmly on his shoulder and gave him a hard shove. "Move out of the way, please," she snapped, her voice sharp with the arrogance of a woman who is used to getting her way. She didn't see the four large men standing just a few feet behind him. They all had earpieces and looked like they were trained to handle threats. They started to move toward her, but the man she had pushed held up a single hand. He didn't say a word, but they stopped instantly. He just watched her walk away, his eyes unreadable. Selam didn't look back. She thought she would never see him again. The next morning, the law firm of Miller and Associates smelled like it always did, expensive coffee and old paper. Selam moved through the hallways like she had been born there. She wore a sharp gray suit today, her gold dress tucked away in her closet. She was the firm's rising star, known for being tough and smart. Her coffee was in a thermos because the office coffee was a crime she hadn't found the time to report yet. She walked toward the main boardroom, where a massive new client was supposed to be waiting. Her boss had told her this client was the most important person the firm had ever represented. She opened the heavy oak doors, her professional smile already in place. But the smile froze the moment she saw the man sitting at the head of the long table. It was him, the man from the party. He wasn't wearing a mask today, and up close, his features were even more intense. He had a jawline that looked like it was carved from stone, and dark hair pushed back neatly. He wore a crisp white shirt with the top buttons open, looking relaxed but powerful. Beside him stood the same large men from the party, Victor and Leon. Selam felt the blood drain from her face. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she realized her shove had just become a very big problem. "Mr. Volkov, this is Selam Tesfaye, our best litigator," her boss announced, completely unaware of the tension in the room. Adrian Volkov didn't say anything for a long moment. He just looked at Selam with the same unnerving calm he had shown on the dance floor. A small, barely visible smile played at the corner of his mouth. "We've met," Adrian said, his voice low and measured. Selam tried to speak, but her throat felt like it was full of sand. She managed a small nod, her brain racing to find a way to fix this. She was a lawyer. She was supposed to have an answer for everything. Adrian leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving hers. She has a very firm hand, he added, and Victor, the bodyguard to his left, let out a short, dry cough that sounded like a laugh. Selam realized then that Adrian wasn't just a rich man. He was a man who owned the air he breathed. Her boss looked confused, but laughed anyway. Selam is very dedicated, he said. Selam sat down, her hands trembling slightly under the table. She opened her laptop, trying to look professional, but all she could think about was the way she had shoved a man who probably had people taken care of for less. The meeting lasted for 2 hours. Adrian was there to discuss a multi-billion-dollar merger, but he seemed more interested in watching Selam work. Every time she spoke, he listened with an intensity that made her skin prickle. When the meeting finally ended, her boss asked her to stay behind to walk Mr. Volkov to his car. It was standard procedure for VIP clients, but it felt like a walk to the gallows for Selam. They walked in silence down the long hallway, the heavy footsteps of Victor and Leon echoing behind them. Selam waited until they were near the elevators to speak. Mr. Volkov, about last night, she began, her voice steady but quiet. I was tired, and I shouldn't have been so rude. I didn't realize who you were. Adrian stopped and turned to look at her. He moved into her personal space, making her feel small despite her heels. Does it matter who I am? He asked. Should you only be polite to people with power? Selam felt a flash of her usual fire. I'm polite to everyone until they block my path, she replied. Adrian actually laughed then, a real, deep sound. I like you, Selam. That's why I'm making you my primary counsel. I want to see how far that fire goes. The next few days were a blur of work. Adrian was a demanding client, but he wasn't demanding in the way Selam expected. He didn't ask for complicated legal strategies right away. Instead, his first official task for her was to read through a 300-page history of his family's legitimate holdings. It was incredibly boring and mostly filled with old property deeds and shipping logs. Selam sat in her office late into the night, rubbing her eyes as she flipped through the pages. She knew he was testing her patience, or perhaps he just wanted an excuse to keep her in the office. Every time she finished a section, she had to go to his temporary office on the top floor to report. He would sit there, watching her as she summarized the dry facts. Why am I reading this, Adrian? She asked on the third night. I'm a litigator, not a historian. Adrian didn't look up from his own work. Details matter, Selam. If you don't know where a man comes from, you don't know how to defend him. He stood up and walked toward her, and as he reached for a file on her desk, his sleeve pulled back. That was when she saw them. The dark, intricate tattoos winding up his arm and onto his neck. The tattoos weren't just decorative. They were sharp, symbolic, and looked like they belonged to a world far removed from corporate law. They were the kind of marks people in the underworld used to tell their stories. Selam's breath hitched. She had heard rumors about the Volkov family, that their wealth wasn't just from shipping and real estate, but from things that happened in the dark. Seeing the tattoos confirmed every fear she had. He wasn't just a boss in the business sense, he was a boss in the most dangerous sense of the word. She looked from the tattoos to his eyes. Adrian knew she had seen them. He didn't try to hide them. Instead, he leaned against her desk, looking perfectly comfortable. Do you have a problem with art, Selam? He asked, his voice teasing but with an edge of steel. I have a problem with secrets, she replied, her heart racing. In my world, secrets get people disbarred or worse. Adrian leaned in closer, his scent, something like cedar and expensive tobacco, filling her space. In my world, secrets are the only thing that keeps people alive. Get back to the files. I'll see you tomorrow. As if dealing with a possible mafia boss wasn't enough, Selam had to deal with Marcus. Marcus was a senior associate who had been passed over for the Volkov account, and he was furious. He had been at the firm longer than Selam and felt he deserved the big fish. He spent his days making snide comments and trying to undermine her. On Friday morning, he walked into the break room while Selam was getting water. I saw the pictures from that party last weekend, Salam, he said, leaning against the counter with a fake smile. That gold dress was a lot. A bit desperate for attention, don't you think? Salam didn't even look at him. It's called fashion, Marcus. I wouldn't expect you to recognize it. Marcus's face flushed red. The partners are starting to wonder why a VIP like Volkov is spending so much time in your office. Some people think you're using more than just your legal brain to keep him happy. Salam turned then, her eyes cold. If you ever imply that again, I will have you in front of HR so fast your head will spin. Now move. She walked past him, but she could feel his eyes on her. She knew Marcus was dangerous in a different way than Adrian. He was a snake who would bite when she wasn't looking. That afternoon, Adrian's assistant called and said he wanted Salam to meet him for lunch. Salam expected a quick deli sandwich or a boardroom meeting, but the car he sent took her to an exclusive, members-only club on the top of a skyscraper. The restaurant was quiet, with white tablecloths and a view that stretched across Lake Michigan. Adrian was already there, looking out the window. When Salam sat down, he didn't talk about the merger. He asked about her family. He wanted to know about her parents moving from Ethiopia and how she had worked her way through law school.
It was disorienting.
He was being charming and genuinely interested. For a moment, Salam forgot about the tattoos and the bodyguard standing by the door. She talked about her mother's spicy cooking and her father's pride when she passed the bar. You're a long way from home, Adrian said softly. I know what that feels like. My family didn't start with much either. He reached across the table and touched her hand briefly. You don't have to be afraid of me, Salam. But as they left the restaurant, Salam saw a man in a dark coat watching them from the lobby. The look in the stranger's eyes made her realize that being close to Adrian meant she was now a target, too. Back at the office, the atmosphere was changing. Salam walked into the supply room to find Marcus whispering to one of the junior partners. They stopped immediately when she entered, looking guilty. Later that day, she was finishing a brief when she heard Adrian's voice coming from the hallway. He was on the phone, and his voice was different than she had ever heard it. It wasn't the calm, charming voice from lunch. It was cold and deadly. I don't care what he promised, Adrian said. If the shipment is light, take care of it.
No witnesses.
Salam froze, her hand hovering over her keyboard. Take care of it. It was a phrase from a movie, but hearing it in real life was terrifying. She sat perfectly still until she heard his footsteps move away. Her stomach did a slow flip. She was a lawyer. She was supposed to uphold the law, not help a man who gave orders like that. She realized she was in over her head. Adrian wasn't just a client. He was a storm, and she was right in the middle of it. She started to think about quitting, but she knew that men like Adrian didn't let people just quit once they knew too much. The pressure grew over the next week. Victor and Leon were now a permanent fixture outside her office door. They didn't say anything, but their presence made everyone else in the firm nervous. Marcus used this to spread more rumors, telling the partners that Salam was bringing criminal elements into the workplace. One evening, Salam went to grab her case files for the Volkov merger, but her desk was empty. The folders were gone. She checked the filing room, the digital backups, and even her assistant's desk. Everything related to the merger had vanished. She knew Marcus had something to do with it. She found him in his office, looking very pleased with himself. Looking for something, Salam? He asked, not looking up from his computer. You know exactly what I'm looking for, Marcus. Give them back. Marcus laughed. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe your friends outside took them. They don't look like they follow the rules. Salam was furious, but she couldn't prove anything. She had to stay late and recreate 3 days of work from memory. Adrian stayed with her, sitting on her office sofa and reading while she typed. You look like you're fighting a war, Adrian said around midnight. He had brought her coffee, the good kind from the cafe down the street. Salam sighed, leaning back in her chair. I'm fighting Marcus, I'm fighting the partners, and I'm fighting the fact that I don't know who you really are. Adrian walked over and stood behind her, his hands resting on her shoulders. His touch was warm and unexpectedly comforting. I told you, I'm a man who protects what is mine. That includes my counsel. They spent the rest of the night talking not about law, but about life and the things they feared. Salam found herself telling him things she had never told anyone. She talked about the pressure of being a first-generation American and the fear of failing her parents. Adrian talked about the burden of his family's name and the desire to build something that was entirely clean. For a few hours, the world outside didn't matter. There was no mafia, no jealous coworkers, and no law firm politics. But when Selam arrived at her apartment that night, she found a plain white envelope tucked under her door. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 4 words, "Stay away from him." The note shook Selam more than she wanted to admit. She didn't know if it was from one of Adrian's enemies or someone at the firm. The next day, there was another party. This time it was the firm's annual gala. Selam decided to play it safe. She wore a simple, elegant black dress, hoping to blend in. But it was impossible. The moment Adrian arrived with his security detail, the entire room shifted. He walked straight to Selam, ignoring the partners and the important judges. Marcus was watching from across the room, his eyes full of hate. Throughout the night, Marcus moved through the crowd, whispering in people's ears. Selam caught snatches of his conversation. Unprofessional relationship, danger to the firm, legal liability. She tried to ignore it, but the sideways glances from the senior partners were hard to miss. Adrian noticed, too. He leaned in close to Selam while they were standing by the bar. "The little man is talking too much," he said, his eyes following Marcus. "Do you want me to handle it?" Selam looked at him sharply.
No, Adrian.
"In my world, we handle things with facts, not whatever you do." A woman approached them then. She was younger than Adrian, with the same dark hair and striking eyes, but her expression was soft and kind. "Adrian, stop being so intense," she said, laughing. "You're scaring the poor woman." Adrian's face transformed. The hardness disappeared, replaced by genuine affection. "Selam, this is my sister, Nadia. She's the only person in the world I actually listen to." Nadia shook Selam's hand warmly. "I've heard so much about you. Thank you for taking care of my brother. He can be a lot to handle." Meeting Nadia changed Selam's perspective. She saw Adrian interacting with his sister. He was protective, gentle, and clearly adored her. It was hard to reconcile this man with the one who gave orders to take care of witnesses. Nadia told Selam stories about their childhood, making Adrian seem like a real person instead of a legend or a threat. "He's had to be tough to keep us safe," Nadia whispered when Adrian stepped away to take a call. "But he has a good heart, Selam. Don't let the tattoos fool you." Selam wanted to believe her, but the anonymous note in her bag was a heavy reminder of the danger. On Monday morning, Selam's world crashed. Her boss called her into his office. He looked tired and disappointed. "Selam, I've had to make a difficult decision. Because of the rumors and the anonymous complaints about your conduct, I'm taking you off the Volkov account. Marcus will be taking over as primary counsel." Selam felt like she had been punched in the stomach. "Marcus? But he doesn't know the case. He's the one who's been spreading the rumors."
Her boss held up a hand.
"It doesn't matter. The firm's reputation is at stake. You'll be moved to the research department for now." Selam walked out of the office in a daze. She knew this was Marcus's plan all along. He had stolen her files, sent the note, and whispered enough lies to ruin her. She went to the bathroom and cried for exactly 2 minutes. Then she washed her face and straightened her suit. She wasn't going to let him win. She knew Marcus was hiding something. No one was that desperate for a client unless they had something to gain or something to hide. She decided to start her own investigation. If she was going to be in the research department, she was going to research Marcus. Selam spent the next 2 days staying late, using her access to the firm's internal servers. She was careful, moving slowly, so she wouldn't trigger any alarms. She started looking into Marcus's past cases and his billing records. Something didn't add up. He was living a lifestyle that was far beyond his salary. Luxury cars, expensive watches, and a high-stakes gambling habit. She found that he had been losing massive amounts of money at an underground casino. He was desperate. He didn't just want the Volkov account for the prestige. He needed the kickbacks from a deal that size to pay off his debts. As she was leaving the office on the 3rd night, Victor stepped out of the shadows. He looked more serious than usual. Mr. Volkov is not happy about the change in council, he said. He knows what the other one is doing. He wants you to be careful, Selam. Marcus is working with people who don't play by the rules. He's not just a jealous lawyer, he's a desperate man. Victor handed her a small flash drive. There are things on Marcus's home computer that the firm needs to see. Adrian thought you might know what to do with them. The next evening, Chicago was hit by a massive rainstorm. Selam had stayed late again, trying to find a way to link Marcus's gambling debts to his work at the firm. When she finally stepped outside, the wind was howling and the streets were flooded. She couldn't find a cab, and her umbrella was useless against the driving rain. She stood under the small awning of the office building, shivering in her thin coat. Suddenly, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. The door opened, and Adrian was sitting inside. Get in, Selam. You're going to catch pneumonia.
She didn't argue.
She climbed into the warm, leather-scented interior. Adrian handed her a dry towel and a thermos of tea. They drove through the rain-slicked streets in silence for a while. Why are you helping me, Adrian? She asked eventually. You could have just let Marcus handle the merger. It would have been easier for you. Adrian looked at her, his expression intense in the dim light of the car. Because I don't like snakes, and I don't like seeing brilliance wasted. You're the only person who has ever stood up to me without flinching. I'm not letting you go that easily. The next morning, Selam received a summons to the 14th floor, the executive level where the founding partners had their offices. Her heart was in her throat. She had the flash drive from Victor in her pocket, but she didn't know if it was enough. She walked into the boardroom to find the three founding partners, her boss and Marcus. Marcus looked smug, sitting next to the head of the firm with a stack of folders. Selam, we've reviewed the formal complaint Marcus filed regarding your cozy relationship with Mr. Volkov, the lead partner said. It's a serious breach of ethics. Selam didn't sit down. She walked to the head of the table and placed the flash drive down. Before you discuss my ethics, we should discuss Marcus's bank account. She explained everything she had found. The gambling debts, the secret meetings with the firm's rivals, and the files he had stolen from her desk. Marcus's face turned pale. She's lying. She's trying to deflect, he shouted. Selam looked at her boss. Open the drive. It contains the metadata from the files he found, files that were accessed from my computer using his login while I was at lunch. The room went silent as the IT director was called in to verify the contents of the drive. As the evidence appeared on the large screen, Marcus's smugness turned into pure terror. It wasn't just the stolen files. There was proof that Marcus had been taking money from a rival firm to sabotage the Volkov merger. He was a mole. The lead partner looked at Marcus with utter disgust. Get out. Security will escort you to your desk to pack your things, and then you are banned from this building. The police will be hearing from us. Marcus scrambled out of the room, followed by two large security guards. Selam felt a massive weight lift off her shoulders. Her boss stood up and walked over to her. Selam, I owe you a sincere apology. I should have trusted your record over his lies. Your position is restored, and you will be the lead counsel for the Volkov merger effective immediately. Selam nodded, but she felt more than just relief. She felt a strange sense of gratitude toward the man who had given her the tools to fight back. She realized that Adrian had protected her in his own way, without breaking her rules. A few hours later, Adrian arrived at the firm. He didn't go to the boardroom, he went straight to Selam's office. He walked past the secretaries and the junior associates who were all staring. He walked into her office and closed the door. He looked at her for a long time, a proud smile on his face. I heard the news. You handled the snake. Selam sat back in her chair, feeling exhausted but happy. I handled the snake with facts, Adrian. Just like I said. Adrian leaned over her desk. And the facts say, you're the best lawyer in this city. He told her that he had made a final decision. He was going to move all of his family's business, the legitimate side, to Miller and Associates, but only if Selam was his personal representative. I'm cleaning up the family name, Selam. I want Nadia to grow up in a world where the Volkov name means something good. I want you to help me do that. Selam looked at him and saw the man Nadia had described, the protector, the visionary. She realized she wanted to help him. She wanted to be part of the world he was building. As the merger moved toward its final stages, Selam and Adrian spent more and more time together. They worked through the weekends, but they also started going to dinner, real dinners, without bodyguards at the table. Adrian took her to a small, hidden Ethiopian restaurant on the south side. He loved the food, especially the doro, what her mother had told him about. They laughed and talked about everything. Selam realized she wasn't scared of him anymore.
She was fascinated by him.
He was a man of many layers, and she was the only one he let see the real ones. One night, as they were walking back to his car, Selam asked him about the tattoos again. Adrian stopped and showed her the one on his wrist, a small, delicate bird. "This was for my mother," he said. "She always told us to fly, no matter how heavy the cage was. Every mark I have is a reminder of a struggle we survived." Selam touched the tattoo, her fingers lingering on his skin. "You're not a mafia boss, Adrian," she whispered. Adrian smiled, that small, secret smile. "I'm whatever I need to be to keep my family safe. But with you, I just want to be Adrian." The merger was finally signed on a sunny Tuesday afternoon. It was the biggest deal in the firm's history, and Selam was the hero of the day. There was a small celebration in the boardroom, but Selam just wanted to be alone. She went up to the rooftop garden of the office building, looking out at the Chicago skyline. The city was glowing in the late afternoon sun. She heard the door open behind her and knew it was him. Adrian walked over and stood beside her. "You did it, Selam. You proved you're the best." Selam looked at him, the wind catching her hair. "We did it. And I've decided to take that partnership offer. I'm staying in Chicago." Adrian reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, beautifully wrapped box.
"Good.
"Because I have one more acquisition I want you to handle." Selam laughed as she opened the box. Inside was a gold pin in the shape of a stiletto heel.
A reminder of where we started," Adrian said.
"In case you ever feel like shoving me again." Selam pinned it to her suit jacket. "I think I'll keep it as a reminder to always look before I push." A few weeks later, Adrian invited Selam to a formal dinner at his private estate. This wasn't a business meeting or a firm gala. It was a family dinner. Selam was nervous, but when she arrived, Nadia was there to greet her with a huge hug. The house was beautiful, not cold and imposing, but warm and filled with light and art. Adrian had cooked the dinner himself, wearing a simple apron over his black trousers. He looked happy and relaxed. Seeing him in his home, surrounded by the people he loved, Selam finally saw the full truth of who he was. They sat around a large wooden table, eating and sharing stories. Adrian talked about his plans for the new hospital wing he was donating to the city, and Nadia talked about her upcoming art show. It was a normal, happy family evening. Selam realized that the danger she had sensed was just the fierce protection of a man who had everything to lose. As the night ended, Adrian walked her to her car. The air was cool and smelled of lake water. "You fit here, Selam," he said softly. "I hope you know that." The story of the gold dress lawyer and the mafia boss became a legend in the Chicago legal world, but the reality was much simpler. They were two people from different worlds who found a common language in strength and loyalty. Selam continued to be the best lawyer in the city, but she was also the woman who could make the most powerful man in Chicago laugh. Adrian continued to clean up his family's legacy, building a future that was based on the law rather than the shadows. They had both changed, finding a balance between their pasts and their future. Selam often thought back to that night at the party, the gold dress, the music, and the shove that changed her life. She realized that her flaw, her tendency to act before she thought, had been the very thing that brought her to the one person who could truly match her spirit. She wasn't just a lawyer anymore. She was a partner in every sense of the word. And Adrian wasn't just a boss. He was the man who had seen the fire in her and decided to keep it burning. On their one-year anniversary, they went back to the same rooftop where they had first met. There was no party this time, just the two of them and the quiet hum of the city below. Selam wore a dress that was a deep, shimmering blue, and Adrian wore a black suit that looked just as expensive as the first one. They stood by the railing, looking at the Chicago River. "I still remember when you pushes me aside and tells me to move," Selam teased. Adrian laughed, pulling her close. It was the best pain I've ever felt. He looked at her, his eyes full of the unreadable calm that she now knew was actually peace. "Are you happy, Salam?" she asked. He didn't answer with words. He just leaned in and kissed her, a long, slow kiss that tasted of the future. The city of Chicago sparkled around them, a world of possibilities that they were ready to face together. Salama knew that whatever challenges came next, whether in the courtroom or in the shadows, they would handle them. Because they were no longer walking alone. They were a team, and they were just getting started.